7 of the spring countdown box. I could feel what this was inside today. We have a couple of Post-it notes. So I'm going to do something a little different. Instead of using these as direct things, I have an idea for what I'm going to do for this. So I need to grab some things together and I will be right back. Okay, so I created a little template of shorts. We're going to make a couple Post-it note holders. I have some bubblegum cardstock here. I cut it in half, but I need it at 7.5 inches. This is at 11, so we're going to take 3.5 inches off. We're going to make one for each. Both of these are going to be 3.5 inches. Or take 3.5 inches off, sorry about that. So these are both 7.5 inches tall. And then they need to be 3 5/8, which I know is a weird number, but that's what I like. So I've got 1, 2, 3. This is 3 1/4. So I'm just going to move it over. I'm going to try to line them up at the same time. I may end up having to do it. 3.5, move it over one more little notch. And I said that's going to be kind of close enough. We'll trim that down. Okay. So for this guy, we'll do him first. We're going to take this piece. I'm going to grab my little scoreboard here. And I'm going to score it at 7/8. I'll score a couple times. And then I'm going to score it at 4 3/8. And I just took a piece of scratch paper. If you're wondering, how did I measure these up? And I just took a piece and then I just kind of folded it and measured. So you see how that's going to fit in there nicely? So we're going to burnish that up. So we'll do each one at a time. We'll decorate them at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull that up and burnish the ends and fold this. And this looks like just a little bit like a matchbox. Burnish that end. Now you probably could totally go ahead and, you know, you could do like a double, but this is thin enough that I'm not going to worry about it too much. And then of course, you know, you could, I'm not even going to put any kind of adhesive to hold this in place. I might create like a little belly band. We've got this last little piece that we can wrap around to make a fun little belly band. That might be what we do. Okay, so then for the paper pad, I chose the Hoppy Spring paper pad. And I chose this paper with the little bunnies on it. And I already went and cut it down ahead of time. And these pieces of paper are 3.5. And then I cut the little piece at the bottom, even though you could, and then we're going to put this piece on right here. You could make it a little bit different. You could cut a little bit down. You could also, like I said, we can do it like this. And then you can have it folded so that it doesn't have to line up. Like, it's up to you how you want this to work. Do you want it to go like this and tuck it in? And it could go over the top. I haven't gotten too far of that yet, but let's go ahead and get this glued down. I thought ease of system. It doesn't have to be perfectly lined up. So I'm going to open this up just so I can see. And I'm just going to eyeball it. Now, like I said, that I don't have exact, you know, they're not perfect on both the sides and the bottom and the top, but you can totally trim it if you wanted it a little bit more. But I liked how it looked. And then I'm going to take this piece, add my adhesive. I might just add the adhesive right down the middle. I'm not worried about it being too much. And I'm going to just use this piece to kind of line it up from side to side. And then I'm going to center it too. So it's very close. Okay, and that is the basics. So like I said, we can put this in. And then, you know, we can do this. We could put a little sticker on here if you were going to do you put a sticker, you could do a wax seal. You know, you could do some Velcro or something if you wanted. You know, you could also put a piece of like a glue dot down to hold it in place. Very thin, you could put very thin double-sided tape and tape it down. I'm not feeling about that too much because I think what I'm gonna do is we're gonna create a little belly band across the front like that. And all I do is take the piece of paper and I'm gonna fold it up and I'm gonna fold it up. And I'm just gonna kind of, and it's gonna meet, and that's gonna be close enough. It does not need to be so creased because sometimes that does not let you slide it on and off when you go to give it as a card. So when we go to, so then it will be able to be slide on and off. So we just need to get a little doohickey to cover that, but I will do that after. We're gonna do it all together. So let's leave that one to the side. I'm just gonna put that on here. Then for this one is a little smaller because it's also gonna depend on your Post-it notes. So this little Post-it note was 2 3/4. So we got to cut this down a little bit. I just moved my trimmer. Same as, you know, same 7 1/2, but we need 2, and I'm going to do 3/4. And then, see, I'm going to put that on there, and it's going to be perfect for that one. Because these can tuck in a little Easter basket perfectly. Now, our score lines are fairly similar. I am going to score at, I misplaced my scoring tool, so let's find a different one here. And I'm going to score it again, 7/8. And then 4 3/4, 4 3/8. This one is 4 3/8. So like I said, depending on what the measurements are of your idea, see, is going to depend on what your score lines are. So I'm going to go ahead and score that down, reinforce all of those score lines. And then I have these pieces of paper, and this one is 2 7/8, 2 3/8 by 2 7/8. So that one's going to go here, and then the very bottom piece is 3/4 by, I think it's 2 3/8. Yeah, I wrote 5/8 down. I got to change that on my little thingy here. And then we'll go ahead and just attach this. Some glue to this too. You could use liquid glue if you wanted to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. I am just going to go ahead and center this one on. So yeah, obviously I cut this one a little bit on the sides to have more of an equal, where this one is top and bottom. I probably could have trimmed that up a little bit, but like I said, it doesn't bother me too much. And then I'm just going to put this over the top once again to line it up side to side. And then, you know, the bunny is not quite as lined, you know, it's not as far apart, so you could cut that down, but it's the point of this, just of this. So, you know, you can do it like this again, and then I will take this piece again, and I'm going to stick it down on the bottom, and I'm just gonna fold it over, and I'm gonna fold it over. And then I'm just going to kind of play with it a little bit so it gets used to. But when I seal it together, I'm going to make sure it's a very bit loose. And then we're just going to cut some of that extra piece off. So let's cut a little bit off right here. And we'll cut a little bit off right here. So there's not as much bulk right there. And then we just need to get our little decorations done. And we'll have a quick couple little fun samples. So I will go grab a couple other things, and we will come back and put these little Post-it notes together. Okay, I pulled out the carrot die, or the carrot stamp from the other days, and I'm going to go ahead and we're going to stamp that down in a couple spots here. I'm going to go ahead and just use a light pink ink or a pink ink. Probably just going to grab the piggyback. It's a light pink ink. And stamp that down. It's a very light ink, so I may switch because I may need to do more. I may need to ink it up. I might not have the right. Let's see if I can get it. All right, I think I'm going to go, maybe let's stamp it a few times here. And then I think what I'm going to do is grab the rosy cheeks and just kind of, we're going to tap it down around the edges just to give it a little bit of fun color. Yep, that'll work. I'm just kind of, off camera here a little bit, I'm just kind of rolling it around. It's kind of hard to see on camera. You're just kind of going in around the edges. And then I'm going to flip this around because I'm going to use the same sheet of paper because it's just a scrap. And then I'm actually going to just take my stamp set, very carefully lay it down on here because it's dirty. I didn't clean it. And then I just want to make sure this doesn't move. We'll use the piggyback. Like I said, this is an ink pad that needs to be re-inked. Just stamp it a few times, get that nice light color. A wetter ink pad, you would not obviously need to do that. And then once again, I'm going to grab the rosy cheeks and just kind of tap it around the edges and lightly touch it down just to give it a little bit of dimension around the edges, some shadowing. That looks pretty good to me. And then I'm going to use the coordinating dies to die cut this out. Now, because I have the spring box and I have the Valentine's Day box, I have two of these. So I'm going to go ahead and there was some stamps in that box as well that worked with this die. So I'm going to go ahead and tape it down with some low tack tape here. I might have to run them through separately because I stamped them so close together. Let's do that quick. They're close enough together that I can't put the die in there together. This little Post-it note holder, you could zhuzh this up any way you want. I am not going to worry about that so much. I am going to grab some double-sided, I'm just going to grab a little bit of glue. I'm just going to add a little glue here, a little glue here. And grab my little, you could put some other little things behind this. You could do some greenery. I'm just going to use this little bit of a wax seal-y thing. Like I said, I'm going to press it in, but I'm going to go ahead and now take it out and press it down one more time. And you can tell that I have a bend in it. And then I'm just going to grab my reverse tweezers here and hold it. Oh, I didn't quite get my paper straight. That's pretty good on there. And then I can go ahead and put that in, and I can just play with it a little bit. Of course, there we go. Play with it a little bit just so it moves up and down pretty easy. Of course, it doesn't want to happen. There we go. And I could find a little for you stamp or something like that, but I could also just leave this because if it goes in a little Easter goodie basket, it's perfect. Let's do the same thing with this one. Go ahead and I'm going to put my tweezers down first. See how I've got that little bit of give in there? First thing we need to do actually is put a little glue here. and then line them up. It's not going to matter a terrible amount if they're not like perfectly, but you want them to line up as much as can because it's going to be. And then I will grab some of this glue. I'll put some here and some here. And then I'm going to just carefully remove that and put this down on there. And then go back in and hold it in place and let it sit. And while we let that sit for just a minute, and then when we take that apart and we go ahead, like I said, you can kind of, this one's a little looser, but I'm okay with that because it still slides on and off. And like I said, it just goes in a little gift baskets. And there you go. There is our day 7. And then you just pull them off and you've got your little Post-it notes inside. So I will link anything down below that is available outside of the box. I believe the box is sold out. They will be affiliate links, which just means if you place an order using one of my links, I do get a small kickback, which helps me bring you content like these unboxing videos. So have a great day, and I will see you back for day 8.